Good evening, everyone. I am Rezil Adlao, and tonight I am going to discuss the fascinating journey through the evolution of language, focusing on the groundbreaking work of a truly remarkable linguist, Ferdinand de Saussure. We'll explore how his revolutionary ideas changed our understanding of language forever. Ferdinand de Saussure was born in Geneva, Switzerland, in 1857. His father is Henri de Saussure, a notable geologist and professor. His mother is Marie Faury, known for her intellectual influence and support. Grew up in a prominent family with a strong emphasis on scientific achievements. Contemporary of Émile Durkheim, Sigmund Freud, and Edmund Husserl, but limited direct interaction. Let's move on to his education. He studied physics and chemistry at University of Geneva in 1875, but nawala yung interest niya wala kasi siyang interest sa science, kaya he transferred to the University of Leipzig 1876 to focus on languages. He spent 18 months studying Sanskrit in Berlin. At the age of 21, he has already a work. He published Mémoire sur le système primitif des voyelles dans les langues Indo-Europeennes at the age of 21. That's translate into Memoir on the Primitive System of Vowels in Indo-European Language. This is a serious academic work showing up a deep understanding of language families and historical linguistics. His work foreshadowed his future research on the arbitrary nature of linguistic sign and noted by Émile Benveniste. Benveniste was a major figure in linguistics. His acknowledgement of this early work adds weight and significance to it. Let's proceed to his academic career. He defended his thesis on absolute genitive case on Sanskrit in 1880. Became a lecturer in Gothic and Old High German at the École pratique des Hautes Études in 1881 and taught in Paris for over a decade, gaining valuable experience and building a reputation as a scholar. Then he accepted a professorship in Sanskrit and Indo-European languages at the University of Geneva. Even though Ferdinand de Saussure's work was groundbreaking, it faced several challenges. His published output diminished over time and expressed dissatisfaction with the lack of reflexivity and inadequate terminology in linguistics. For example, you're learning about cars. Everyone just talk about the outside, the color, the shape, and the wheels. But no one explores what's the inside of the engine, how it works, and how the parts fit together. That kind of what Saussure felt about linguistics. He thought people were focused on describing language from the outside, like how words sound or what they mean, but not how language actually works as a system inside our brains. He thought the tools used to study language weren't good enough to understand how it really works. He wanted to dive or dig deeper into the structure of language itself, not just its surface features. This satisfaction led Saussure to focus on developing his own theories, which primarily shared through lectures rather than published work. So let's move on to his major work. Saussure felt that linguistics was stuck in a rut, just looking at the surface of language without kanabitang wala naka dili masabtan ang iyang underlying structure. Kanang gusto niya nga maghimo og bagong foundation para sa linguistic, kanang studyhan ang language in a more systematic and scientific way. Maunang iyahang nahimo ning course in general linguistics, posthumously published in 1916. It was compiled from lecture notes, represents his vision to re-examine language and establish robust foundation for linguistics. Ang nagpadayon sa ihang course in linguistics mao ang ihang mga students. Ang course Linguistic DI is a foundational text of modern linguistics. It helped to shift the focus from describing language to understanding its underlying structure and how it functions. It's like a compass that pointed linguistics in a new direction, leading to a deeper understanding of the complex world of language. So now let's move on to Saussure's approach to language. On 1660, Port Royal philosopher Arnold and Lancelot viewed language as a reflection of thought grounded in universal language. While in 19th century, historical linguists emphasized the historical evolution of language, often considering Sanskrit as the oldest language and link between all languages. Kanang they are like more interested in the story of the car. Sa car lang giapunta. Kanang how they were related to other vehicles. They thought that all this car like Sanskrit held the key to understanding all the cars that came after it. But in early 20th century, during Ferdinand de Saussure, challenged these views, shifting the focus from historical evolution to the present structure of individual languages. He argued against the idea of languages as a naming process. Ingon siya dali. Hey! Ato na ning undangon, di na mag-undang na taog ka ng balik sa history, mag-focus ta karon og how the cars work right now. It's not just a reflection of the world, but it's a system with its own rules. He also said that cars aren't just about naming parts. They're about how those parts work together. His idea was a big change in how people thought about cars and language. He wanted us to understand the structure and system of language, not just its history or how it reflects the world. So let's move on to methodological shift. Synchronic versus diachronic analysis. Synchronic is a study of language at a specific point in time, focusing on its structure and relationship within the snapshot, while diachronics is a study of language across time, examining its historical development and evaluation. For example, in synchronic, think about the English language today. We use words like phone and computer, which are modern inventions. These words wouldn't exist in older version of English. In synchronic, understanding how language function its present states without being distracted by historical changes. Wala siya nakakuano sa history kay wala pa may cellphone sa una o computer. Saussure believed this approach is crucial for understanding the fundamental principle of language. While diachronic, if you look at how the English language has changed over centuries, you see the words like thou and thee. They have disappeared from the common use. Understanding how language changes over time. This approach is important for historical linguistics and understanding the process of language change. Moto, mas gi-prefer ni Ferdinand de Saussure ang synchronic kay nag-offer man ni og clear understanding of language structure elements at any given stage. He believed that studying the present structure of language is essential for understanding how it functions and creates meaning. He saw diachronic analysis as secondary concern, valuable for understanding the history of language but less important for understanding its core principle. We're here at arbitrary relation between signifier and signified. Signifier, the physical form of a sign such as a word or a symbol. Example, the word tree. While the signified, the mental concept or meaning associated with the signifier, the image of the tree in your mind. For example, a dog, a picture of a dog, or even pointing sa tinuod nga iro. These are all different ways to represent the concept of a dog. Ano siya ang gitawag nga signifier. While sa signified, the mental concept of meaning associated with the signifier. The mental image of a dog forms in your mind, which is furry body, wagging tail, and barking sound. Muna siya signified. So, there's no reason why the word dog has to be the word for the furry animal. It's just a convention we've agreed on. In French man god kay ang iro sila kay chin, and sa Spanish pod kay Piero. Concept of a dog is the same, but the sounds are different. And this shows how the relationship between the signifier and the signified is arbitrary. It's not natural connection. It's something we've just agreed on as a society to communicate effectively. Let's move on to langue and parole. Langue refers to the language system as a structure, while parole refers to individual speech acts. Langue, the roles of English grammar, while parole, a specific sentence spoken by a person such as the cat sat on the mat. For example, while making a book. Ang langue kay mao ang rules sa English language, including grammar, vocabulary, and punctuation. Ang parole kay ang specific words, sentences, and paragraph nga gigamit sa author sa book. The book is built upon the rules of English, but the specific content and arrangement of words are parole, the unique expression of the author. Tutumanan nga, ang langue is a system, while parole is the use. Langue is assured by community, while parole is individual. And langue is abstract and parole is concrete. By understanding this distinction, we gain a deeper appreciation for how language works at both the systematic and individual levels. So let's move on to Meaning and structure. Differential nature of language. Meaning is not inherent in individual signs but arises from the relationship and differences between them within the system. The value of or meaning of a sign is determined by its position relative to other signs. This emphasizes the importance of studying the system as a whole. For example, the big house versus a small house. The meaning of the big and small here depends on the size of the other house in the neighborhood. Ang meaning is relative kanang big and small is not absolute but relative to the other elements of the system. They gain their specific meaning through their position with the language. System as a whole, to understand the full meaning of this word, we need to consider the entire system of signs and their relationship to each other. The value of big is established by its contrast, small and vice versa. They define each other through their differences. This example demonstrates the meaning is not inherent in individual signs but emerge from the relationship and differences within the language system. So, we are going to move on to Saussure's impact on the human sciences. Saussure linguistic theories revolutionized the human sciences by shifting the focus from the historical documentation to understanding human action as system of meaning. His emphasis on the arbitrary nature of signs and language as a system of conventions highlighted the importance of sociocultural context. This led to greater reflexivity in research, acknowledging the researcher's own position within the system under the study. Next is influence on the other disciplines. Saussure insights have been applied for various fields including anthropology, sociology, psychoanalysis, literary criticism, and semiotics. Saussure refers to the value of elements within the system, not their physical existence. And nothing social or cultural exists in isolation and individual shaped by surrounding system. For example, anthropology. Lévi-Strauss used Saussure's ideas to analyze kinship system and made a structured system of meaning, revealing the underlying patterns and relationship. He found the hidden patterns and connections that reveal how culture are structured. Dali na po sa sociology. Bourdieu applied Saussure's concept to understand how language use reflect and reinforce social power structure. He saw how language can be used to maintain or challenge these power structures. Then, literary criticism. Structuralist critics analyze literary text as system of signs, revealing how meaning is generated through the relationship between words and narrative structure. They look at how words and stories are put together to create meaning, revealing the hidden structures that make a story work. So Saussure's ideas weren't just about language itself. They help people in other fields to understand how system meaning work in different areas of life. It's like having a new set of tools to understand the world is more complex and interesting way. So, Ferdinand de Saussure's contribution to linguistic and human sciences are profoundly significant. His emphasis on the structured nature of language, the arbitrary relationship between signifier and signified, and the distinction between langue and parole created a revolutionary framework for understanding language and its impact on human science. His work continues to inspire various fields, showcasing the lasting influence of his insight. Thank you, and that's all.